Welcome to the FarmBits podcast, a product of Nebraska Extension Digital Agriculture. I'm Jackson Stansel.
And I'm Samantha Teaton.
And we come to you each week to discuss the trends, the realities, and the value of digital agriculture.
Through interviews and panels with experts, producers, and innovators from all sectors of digital technology, we hope that you step away from each episode with new practical knowledge of digital agriculture technology.
We welcome back Dr. John Fulton to the FarmBits podcast. As you may recall, Dr. Fulton is a professor at The Ohio State University and is involved with the Ag Data Coalition, which is a nonprofit consortium of private and public entities that is aiming to enhance the storage and usage of data in agriculture. So we've recently been talking about digital farm management, and that includes data management. And you're one of the folks at The Ohio State University that has participated in the Ag Data Coalition kind of since its inception. Can you describe exactly what the Ag Data Coalition is and what it's doing for producers and consultants?
You know, it's been around for a few years. We're really as kind of an industry, academic, ag technology motivated effort. A lot of common issues that go across the ag industry, and that includes for us in the research area. And so the Ag Data Coalition was really a formation of folks that, as we see this whole thing of digital ag growing in the accumulation or collecting of data by farmers, was an entity that could bring that data together and be managed, controlled by the farmers themselves. And so as you guys think about the on-farm network that goes on in Nebraska, as you engage producers, bring new producers in, same for us here in Ohio at Ohio State with our eFields program. But you know, producers are overwhelmed a lot of times, or maybe a lot of complexity around this whole topic of farm data. But this entity would support and educate, but at the same time have a platform where on the producer's half, all that data could be collected and put in one location. And so as that producer engages anyone across the industry, including folks like us that conduct research and want to bring a different level of learning, you know, they could basically give us access to the data that's we need to conduct the research and bring new learning to science. At the same time, you know, as we create new data layers that possibly could be created for that grower. For, you know, simple example might be, you know, maybe they don't have elevation data, but because of our project, we're able to collect, you know, real high accurate elevation data. Hey, put that back for the grower, because that may be a really valuable data layer for another, you know, kind of analysis that, you know, the industry might want to bring to that field, whether that's like drainage or fertility or something. Maybe that becomes, but the point in that is there's kind of this ability to for a grower and on their behalf help them manage data, but at the same time they fully are in control about who has access to it and how it can be used. And they would have full transparency of that through that basically platform. So there is a platform today. You can have essentially an individual account. I could have an individual account, whether I'm a researcher, a farmer, but at the same time, we recognize in industry, we'll say service providers, retailers, they tend to manage a lot of farmers' data. Think about just soil sampling and fertility recs. I mean, you know, they're covering tens and thousands of acres, 100,000 acres of data management annually. And so they can actually have a big bucket, but yet individual buckets within their structure and framework where they can help their members, if they're a co-op, with that data, put that data into their account, and then have that permissions access that says, hey, as a retailer, you're my trusted advisor. You can have access to this data. And then as the farmer's yield data can be brought in as well. And so rather than that retailer at the end of the day having to maybe go out to that farm to collect that yield data on a thumb drive, it could flow in, or has the ability to flow into their Ag Data Coalition account, and then the retailer could pick that yield data up if they're going to translate that to kind of a fertility rec. So
Hmm.
um, it's a nonprofit. The reason it's a nonprofit today is because we look at the whole ag data space as something. There's a lot of education yet to be done. I mean, I think all of us sitting here would tend to say we probably don't have the time to keep up with all things ag
Yeah.
data. So it is a place where there's constantly education, but at the same time, there's kind of this platform that has the real farmer centric focus to it. That says at the end of the day, we believe uh, that the farmer uh, will say owns their data, but more importantly, should have the right to fully control all data that they're collecting on a field by field basis.
Wow. That sounds like a very extensive platform. I guess it's more than I originally understood it to be. And it seems like it's a really important thing out there right now, just with all the data silos that we tend to have, especially on the commercial side.
Yeah, and we just did a project basically scanning the ag data space are basically commercially available. We call them digital technologies. And so digital technology is anything that requires a farmer or consultant to submit data to in order to get something back per se, whether that's a recommendation information, but it's just not a weather app. It's something that as a grower, I've got to provide. But the number of entities that are warehousing data in the ag industries, it's pretty amazing. And we did a similar study in 2017 that we could benchmark against. And I think the growth in the data warehousing category was almost over 2.5 fold
Wow.
since 2017. So those are companies again offering commercial, we'll say apps that gives you the capacity to interact or set up the count with that data, and it's significantly grown just in the last 3 years.
Hmm.
But to that point, as a grower, you know, you guys recognize just doing research, not one grower uses. I should say, not all growers use the same tools. Very
Yep.
similar to each of us having a smartphone, we all select apps that work in our lives, bring efficiency information to us on a daily. We set those up. It's the same thing. A farmer uses machinery, equipment, and technology in the same way. They're going to pick, but figuring out which one of those are the right ones for their operation that helps them bring value back to that operation can be very complex these days. So therein lies some of the motivation around why what we call the ADC or Ag Data Coalition really arose.
Hmm.
Who was really instrumental in like getting it started? Was it like like a group of universities or a group of organizations?
If you go back in time, it was actually a combination of both. I mean, there was a handful, a couple of different universities involved that included Ohio State at the time. Of course, Nebraska got involved pretty quick because of you had some core competency there at the university in the area of precision ag. But at the same time, there was a core group of industry partners that range from, we'll say OEMs to short line companies to retailers or precision ag service providers that are out there. And we were all kind of struggling in the same thing of how do we get something to help us move ahead, and at the same time has a vision and a focus on the farmer and preserving, their privacy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's really good background on the Ag Data Coalition, and so how is the work that the Ag Data Coalition is doing and the platform it is providing setting the stage for more connected farming operations in the future?
I think the industry as a whole has to probably overcome some concerns around just farmer data and have a mindset that at the end of the day, it's going to be more valuable for a grower to be able to push that data, we'll say, or allow more access to that data. And that may be moving it from this platform to this platform and maybe even back to and then pushing it to other. My thing is this, we call it a lot of times portability of data, the movement of data within and across platforms. I think is going to truly really help bring forward the industry, and ultimately will probably bring some more value back to the farm gate because of the ability of that. We do have supportability is still a limitation. You could bring in the discussion around, well, we need standards to make that happen. You know, we have entities like Ag Gateway that are bringing people together across industries to tackle those discussions around standards and enabling that. But I think just overcoming it, at the end of the day, if I'm collecting data, enabling that to travel where it needs to go on behalf of the farmer is going to be a real leap in terms of how we can learn and use that data and ultimately help that farmer within their operation.
Thank you for taking the time to join us today on the FarmBits podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts to be informed about the latest content each week.
We welcome your feedback, so if you have comments or questions for us, please reach out to us over email, on Twitter, or in the review section of your favorite podcast platform. Our contact information can also be found in the show notes.
We would like to thank Nebraska Extension for their support of this podcast and their commitment to providing high-quality informational material to members of the agricultural community in Nebraska and beyond.
The opinions expressed by the hosts and guests on this podcast are solely their own and do not reflect the views of Nebraska Extension or the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
We look forward to you joining us next week for another episode of FarmBits.